Joining us now is OjyOkpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx.
Well, good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you this morning? May just make it louder. Good morning. Good morning, Ayo. How are you this morning?
Doing
perfect. Good morning, Rufai. How are you this morning?
Morning.
Well, all right.
Morning.
Well, all right. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending here in Lagos, where the governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Tuesday announced a 5 billion naira pledge towards construction of a permanent site for the National Youth Service Corps orientation camp in the state. Well, the governor made the pledge during his address as a special guest of honor at the NYSC passing out parade closing ceremony for the 2024 Batch B Stream 1 Corps members. The governor also announced a sum of 100 million naira for the NYSC support staff and a farewell gift of 100,000 naira for each NYSC member departing camp. Let's take a look.
For inspection, so
I'll be putting available a total of 5 billion that I'll be using to start the full development of the permanent site for NYSC. For this batch, we have 4,254. And so with all sense of responsibility, and because you've been very hardworking, each and every one of you will go home with 100,000 naira. Will be available in your accounts by next week. Your directors will credit your accounts. Don't worry. This is how we do it in Lagos.
That's how they do it in Lagos. Of course, you know I'm coming to you on the story. Absolutely. Lagos State, you know, doing the Lord's work for our youth corps member. I mean, who doesn't want 100,000 naira? But I think most importantly is that 5 billion naira pledge for the renovation of that camp. I mean, it is when you see some of these youth corps service members, they show you the way they live and how, you know, they go to camp. You're like, oh God, do I really want to do this? But now Lagos State is showing example.
We lead, others follow. And this is why everyone wants to come to Lagos State for NYSC.
Yes.
Jokes about, I know all the Ogun people are looking at me with their side eye.
Don't worry, I encourage you. I'm from Delta.
Thank you.
Daniel built a big stadium too that we now use as permanent NYSC orientation camp in Shabam.
Just a 5 billion naira fantastic gesture by the governor. And you know, and I hope that money will be judiciously spent and that would improve the status of the orientation camp in Lagos. We are the center of excellence. Let's lead by example. Let the young people come into their first phase of post-university in a good way. Let you know, good standard of living for them.
I love
well
it.
Done.
I love it. Kudos, Governor Sanwo-Olu. You call him Adjuaya.
It was a kiss from him.
I mean, that was trending. It was just too much. But he always does that. Did you see him at the Lagos Fashion Week? He did the same thing, kissing and blowing kisses is his new sign. Well, later in the evening, the Lagos State Governor hosted a dinner at the State House to honor Nobel Laureate Professor Wole Soyinka on his 90th birthday. Well, during the dinner, Sanwo-Olu unveiled a special portrait of the renowned playwright while sharing photos from the event on X. Sanwo-Olu thanked Professor Soyinka for showing, through resilience, creativity, and dedication, that Nigerians can achieve greatness, adding that his Nobel Prize win many years ago opened the door for many to dream and believe that greatness is achievable. Well, the Nobel laureate has opened up about the 1965 incident where he was reported to have broken into the Western Nigeria Broadcasting Service studio to broadcast a demand for the cancellation of the Western Nigeria regional elections, saying that he never broke into the radio station but sneaked in because the radio station was holding onto something that belonged to the people. Wole Soyinka made the comment from his residence in Abeokuta on Monday while answering questions from students on his life experiences for the past 90 years. He also stated that he did not envisage living up to 90, adding that his unfulfilled dream is to visit space.
One of them, for instance, is going up in space. As one accomplishment which I see hanker for. And if any of you know somebody who can buy me a seat on the next rocket, just let me know. And then at the end of that, I will feel absolutely accomplished.
I must say, we share the same dream. I want to be friends with Elon Musk, of course. Why you say? No, don't worry.
Space.
Yes, I want to go to space.
Really?
That's what he said.
When Nigeria is launching it,
I do want to go to. That is one of my biggest dreams, of course. But anyways, another topic that was quite controversial with that, visit by the students at Wole Soyinka's home in Abeokuta was the statement he made about, whether or not he sneaked in or he broke into the. Well, he's 90 and he's saying he sneaked in. But the story was that he broke in. Do you want to speak? Or I was speaking to Dr. Abati. Okay, quickly. Before.
There are many versions. I remember most, because I had personal meetings with Professor Wole Soyinka where he's told the story over and over again. And the legal battle that ensued afterwards, Then the young Justice Kayode Shaw had just been coming into the profession of being a judge. Then I think he was the judge that handled the case and all that went between. But the thing about Professor Wole Soyinka is he had to do what he had to do at that point in time. So if you say he's sneaking, he broke in, whatever it is, in fact, there's another part of the story that also said that he had a weapon with him, to be able to harass. Because it was a time of a lot of madness in the Western region, the wild, wild West. And that's what people remember Professor Wole Soyinka for. His forthrightness, and that's why a lot of people felt very upset, and this is feedback, in the last election with the things that were done and the position which Professor Wole Soyinka took. At a time of a critical national importance, Professor Wole Soyinka risked his life to go in there, ensure that something was not done, to be able to bring sanity back to the Western region. He's always a man of great conviction. As regards sneaking in, the most important thing is that he got into the radio station. Like you say, he broke in, he sneaked in, it's his story, it's his story. Yeah. You can tell it anyway. But the most important thing was he stood tall at a time like that. And that's why a lot of people were drawn with him with great admiration. And that's why most people now also still disagree and say, at a time where we saw the malicious way people were treated in this last election, where people were beaten because of their ethnicity and all of that, in this area, we will have thought that the Professor Wole Soyinka will have called the spade and said it the way it is. He has his own reasons for his own opinion and the things he said. But we will always respect him, and that's the distinguishing factor between what happened then and now. But please, out of all of this that have happened, we cannot forget the struggles of Professor Wole Soyinka at a time which elections were annulled in June 12th. His struggles as regards making the educational system better in this country. His struggles about humanity and giving to the next generation. You can never forget his sacrifices. So we honor him, we celebrate him at a time like this. Absolutely. We also have disagreements with him, but that's what makes his embodiment as a human being. He has his ups, he has his downs, but you cannot but celebrate a great man. And any honor given to Wole Soyinka is well noted, because two things. Wole Soyinka will never be 90 again. Yeah. That's just it. Let's celebrate him now.
Yes. So many events. I love the portrait also by Sanwo-Olu.
I wrote a tribute to Professor Soyinka yesterday.
Yes, that was brilliant.
I've been writing on Professor Soyinka forever. Wrote a master's thesis, wrote a PhD thesis. So it's a subject I'm familiar with. But to your specific question. Let me start first of all by thanking the governor of Ogun State and also the governor of Lagos State for celebrating a man who is a major icon in the world literature society, in terms of his contributions to humanity, in terms of what he has done with his creativity, in terms of what he has done, to building generations of people, scholars, academics, students, who draw eternal inspiration from his example. In Ogun State, you had the exchange program, which was a play on his email address, Eniogun. They turned it around. They said engaging national interest on good governance, understanding, nation building. When you play it out, it translates to Eni Ogun.
Brilliant.
Because it's, Ogun is his patron saint. And he had that interaction with those students who had taken part in an essay competition. And it was there that the question was brought up about the mystery of 1965. There have been many versions. Justice Kayode Esho actually titled his book, one of his books, because he wrote many. He titled his memoir, The Mystery Gunman. Now, what happened on that occasion was that the premier of the Western region, Ladoke Akintola, as he was supposed to have a broadcast on the Western Nigerian Broadcasting Service station. Everybody was waiting for that broadcast. But instead of that broadcast going on air, it was Wole Soyinka's broadcast, that went on air. And, that's why the myth is, about the mystery gunman who came into the station.
Right.
Well, some people say he seized the station. He was now telling the young people that he had to sneak in because he had to do what he had to do by making sure that something that belonged to the people was not seized, by other people. And what is it that belonged to the people? Justice, the freedom. Now, the matter later went to court, but of course, he survived it. So, again, a reflection of the kind of career he has had. Not just a writer, but also a man in the arena of action.
All right.
In Lagos State, he was also, deservedly celebrated. And that's why I said we thank Governor Sanwo-Olu. And at that event in the evening, you told us in your narrative that the high point was the unveiling of the portrait.
That beautiful portrait.
And that portrait is so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Unlike one other portrait.
I don't know where you're going.
Unlike one other portrait that they unveiled at the Eagle Square. This one.
The tallest.
Well, I can say
the tallest
I can say that this one.
About my president's portrait like
no,
this one is strongest.
just said portrait.
No, I find this one a very well put together portrait, which represents him very well. And finally, on the NYSC, well, I think Governor Sanwo-Olu has also done well in that regard by saying he will build a permanent camp. And giving money to the young people, who will see the hospitality of the people of Lagos. The only danger here is that when that permanent camp is put together, everybody will be struggling to come and serve in Lagos State. I hope
other states should have
the NYSC. I hope the NYSC will be able to cope with that.
Yes.
Because you can imagine the permanent camp will be state of the art.
I knew you were going to say that.
And everyone will want to come here.
Absolutely.
If OjyOkpe may want to say, well, allow us to do national service a second time.
Let's do it a second time. You know that the governor always has a good taste. Definitely going to be a state-of-the-art NYSC camp. Well, meanwhile, in Oyo State, Makinde has declared that the federal government is not superior to states in the exercise of each other's constitutional roles. Makinde made the comment in Ibadan at an emergency consultative meeting with stakeholders on Monday to appraise last week's judgment of the Supreme Court, which granted financial autonomy to local government areas across the nation.
We are responsible administration in Oyo State. We don't need the federal government to tell us what to do. We know what to do, and we know what is good for our people. We can run our own affairs. The federal government is not superior constitutionally to the state government. Well, they have more resources than the states, but the jurisdiction is coordinate. So we can do what is right in Oyo State, and we've been doing what is right in Oyo State.
All right, there's nothing we will not see in Nigeria. Dr. Bati, a governor saying that he's going to overrule the Supreme Court ruling. I mean, that's what it sounds like. Absolutely. Well, in the meantime, a 2023 gubernatorial debate where the governor stated that he will not endorse local government autonomy in Oyo State has resurfaced online. Let's take a look.
I refuse to sign for local government autonomy. Anywhere in the world, you don't have three people federating. You have two. You have the state and the federal.
There are three tiers of government in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have Local Government Service Commission, don't we? that means that it is we have State Civil Service Commission. That shows that there are different categories of governance. And in terms of revenue generation, it's because the state governments in their greed are stealing the functions of the local government.
For you to drive development, you must drive it from the local government, not from the top. Today, in Oyo State, the local government are non-existent. No one is accounting for anything.
Obviously, you know why this is resurfaced. Ayo, I mean, your take on this story and the comment on the governor.
It's interesting because in his statements, the governor of Oyo State said he had done what was right. He had conducted 2 council elections. He had ensured that payments were made to the local government and all that. So to now see that he wasn't, that's interesting. Was he not aware of that before he became governor in terms of the 3 tiers of government, federal, state, and local government, in terms of supporting the autonomy of the local government? Now, the fault in what I hear is that he kept on saying the federal government. This is not about the federal government. It was the Supreme Court ruling.
It is.
He did say that he had set up 2 committees to look into, because they had that law or that ruling provided a lacuna and there were holes, which, to be fair, we have talked about that a number of times, whereby there's some questions that have been raised following that, which some lawyers have tried to break down, explain, but he has a right to examine and see the implications of that. But in terms of obeying the ruling of the court, I hope that he will speak out to say that as a law-abiding citizen and the first citizen of Oyo State, he'll be the first to respect the rule of law. I think that's the message that should be out there.
I think he raised it. I think he raised a good point, Dr. Bati, our lawyer here. What are the implications of him flouting that Supreme Court ruling? Just a sentence and we go on.
No,
get this.
He's not the only one who has disagreed with the Supreme Court, so he may just be expressing his own opinion.
Just an opinion.
Because the Supreme Court is the final court of the land.
Absolutely.
If you disagree with what the Supreme Court has said, you can only appeal to God. Number 2 is the fact that that ruling has raised a number of issues. Now, he was saying in another video that you played that in any country there cannot be 3 federating units. Well, some people have said, with the interpretation of Section 162 by the 7-man panel of the Supreme Court, we have to take a second look at Section 2. Section 2 of the Constitution talks about states and the FCT as federating units. We have to take a second look at Section 191, which talks about, state independent electoral commission. Now we have to talk about Section 162, subsections 4-5, relating to the creation of local government councils. But all of that can be done through legislation. But no governor can overrule the Supreme Court of Nigeria. The job of the Supreme Court is to interpret the law. And this interpretation is a position of the law with regard to Section 162. If there are any further amendments, that will be through constitutional amendment.
Absolutely. Well, in Niger State, the governor has issued a statement to clarify the viral video showing the state governor, Umar Bago, ordering security personnel to slap a man who identified himself as a cleric during a funeral prayer for the late wife of his deputy. Well, according to the special advisor to the governor on print media, the man in question was an imposter cleric who attempted to assume the role of an imam during the prayers, adding that the individual has since apologized to the governor and the Forum of Imams for his misconduct. I mean, this is their statement here. But Bago also said that the man was not slapped. So if the man was not slapped...
So even if he's an imposter, so you should slap...
It is unfortunate.
To slap somebody.
I mean, what is that?
What kind of mess... Yeah. Well, I mean, who are these press secretaries in states or advisors that write?
I mean, that was the clarification.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the clarification? So even if the man was an imposter, worst case scenario is an imposter like a kid.
Yes.
So is it right for you to say you slap another human being?
I mean, I don't understand it.
Let's ask the governor.
Yes.
If somebody has said they should slap him like that, how will he feel?
That's it.
What are all these governors even doing? Kill him, go jati. That's even happening.
You have to translate.
No, what is all of this nonsense that is going on?
All right.
We're talking about the fundamental rights of a human being.
Point. That is it. You have no right whatsoever to order a man to be slapped for just expressing himself, even if he's an imposter. At the end of the day, he wasn't slapped. So, and he has apologized, right? Well, all right. Thanks for the clarification, Niger State. We'll take
was a cleric pray?
Can't anybody pray?
Even if
I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works.
To lead prayer.
I don't know how that works.
Okay, maybe to lead prayers. Okay.
Well, all right.
But even if he's an imposter, no.
All right. We'll take our final story then. In the wake of anti-government protests in Kenya, which began in June in response to a bill seeking to increase taxes, a clip from a debate on tax cuts for African countries on NBC's television series, The West Wing, has made the rounds on social media. Alan Adler, who plays the role of the Republican nominee for the 2006 presidential election, argued that high taxes have killed any possibility of economic development in African countries. Let's take a look.
Poor countries can never repay their loans.
Senator, are you saying that you're opposed to debt relief for impoverished countries?
No, we should forgive the debts, but that's not going to help those countries very much.
Okay. What will?
Tax cuts. Some African tax rates are the highest in the world. Those high tax rates make it impossible to build capital in those countries. So nothing gets built, not factories, not roads, not anything. Poor African countries have the lowest wage workers in the world. Taxes have killed any possibility of economic development. They've killed any hope of these countries ever helping themselves. And that leaves them completely at the mercy of charity and loans. And here's the worst part. You know why those countries have such high tax rates? Because of us. To show us that they can raise enough money to pay back their loans. But taxes can't raise any money if they kill the economies. So it turns out that the tragic, unintended consequence of our good intentions toward Africa, our kindness, is that we have encouraged those countries to lock themselves into a gruesome economic depression.
All right. This is a television series completely apt, in fact, with what's going on in Kenya and around African countries. High taxes in African countries has been faulted here.
That's the debate we're having this morning. Because you see, people like the West, Bretton Woods institution, will say monetary tightening. That's why they've been clapping for Nigeria all this while, because we are destroying our economy, tightening so much. Foreign exchange, poof, out of the window, float the Naira. That's their idea. Removal of federal subsidy. But it doesn't bring about the growth needed in the economy.
That's the point.
So the mindset is, you tax the people, you crush them, so that you'll be able to squeeze out of them. It destroyed England. 14 years of austerity. When they came in, the Conservative government came in there, they said they met a note from Alistair Darling, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, saying there was no money. So they went on austerity, but did it bring about growth? No.
That's the main point. It did bring about growth.
No, it didn't bring about growth. And I think it's been said a number of times that high taxes cannot take us out of a revenue challenge. But one thing he said, which I thought was quite instrumental, was where he said about the fact that taking advantage of the fact that Africa has one of the lowest worker wages in the world, and that should actually attract investments in terms of building factories. But because of the high taxes, we can't even leverage that. We have an unemployment crisis on our hands, not just in Nigeria, in Kenya, in other parts of Africa, but we can't take advantage of it because of the high taxes.
Dr. Bati.
Very quickly, you mentioned Kenya, and the man talked about debt. In Kenya, they're trying to solve the problem of debt by taxing the people. Look at the crisis that's occurred. The gentleman talked about aid. Dependency on aid. Dambiso Moyo is the leading authority on it. She has done a book, Dead Aid, and why there are alternatives. What are the alternatives? He's suggesting that African countries should think out of the box. So it's not by just taxing the people. So there are lessons here, that African leaders can learn, even if they want investment.
Absolutely.
In England, from this morning, taxation is going to be a big issue because the Labour government is promising tax.
Absolutely. We're going to continue on this conversation. But I'd like to thank you for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.